ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So, we are continuing our discussion on what is called by Swami Vivekananda Raja Yoga. It is nothing but a study of Indian psychology, and our source book is the Yoga Aphorisms of Patanjali, which are called in Sanskrit the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So as we have already discussed a detailed study of the aphorisms, we'll leave it for a later date. It will take a lot of time and we have to start serially. So this we are just introducing ourselves to the systems of Indian philosophy. We have already covered Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya. Sankhya is very important. And while studying the Yoga Sutras, we have also covered a lot about the nature of the mind, its functions, constituents, various levels in quite some detail. So I had mentioned that now we are ready to take up the practical side, an introduction to the practical side of yoga. And today we will start that aspect. So I am starting with Swamiji's introduction to his Patanjali Yoga Sutras, that is the Raj Yoga. You must be knowing that he has written a very short commentary on the Yoga Sutras. It is there in the complete works of Vivekananda. So his introduction is like all other talks and writings, is simply masterly. So let us start that. I hope we can complete that. Otherwise, we can carry it on for the next talk also. There is no problem. But it is very important that we study this with full attention, because here Swamiji has dealt with some very important matters in such a masterly way. I mean, in this short introduction, there is so much, and his own inimitable style, language and the logical sequence, he slowly leads us step by step. And one of the most important things which he discusses here, which appeals to the modern mind, to the young mind, is whether this yoga is a science or not. That appeals to all, especially in the West, and the youngsters. When we had read this for the first time, I was, I think, in my teens or something like that. So in that state, we are so fond of that everything should be scientific and logical and all that. So we used to see our elders going to the temple and all as waving something before an image. So what is all this? What is this religion? Offering some flowers and all and coming back, that's all. So had it not been for Swamiji, maybe many youngsters would have not been attracted to this science, the science which is called Raj Yoga. So he discusses in a beautiful way whether this is science or not, and then what is the aim of this yoga and the method of this yoga. So it is simply astounding, the presentation as well as the depth of this introduction which he has given. So let us start. So first he deals with the question whether this yoga is a science or not. Is it based upon certain beliefs only which have no foundation, or it has a scientific basis or not? So this is the question he discusses first. So let us start. most of the time I'll be quoting Swamiji, and wherever I feel a little explanation is necessary, we can just discuss that. So he starts by telling all our knowledge is based upon experience. This we have already studied when we were discussing the mind, and when we were also discussing the Indian philosophies. We have seen that all our knowledge is based upon experience. What we call inferential knowledge, in which we go from the less to the more general, or from the general to the particular, that also has experience as its basis. So this we have already discussed. You see, we have discussed the methods of knowledge. That first is direct perception. When we see something directly with our eyes, or when we hear something directly, when we smell something directly, that is called pratyaksha pramana, direct perception. And next comes anumana, that is the inferential knowledge. We have seen what an example of inference, that we cannot see a fire, but we can just see smoke coming out from some place. So then our mind reasons in this way: there is smoke, and wherever there is smoke, there is fire. So although I cannot see the fire now, but from the smoke I infer that there must be a fire somewhere. So here we are going from the general to the particular. So this also has experience as its basis, because if we have never seen directly a fire burning, if we have never seen a fire, if we don't know by our own perception that wherever there is fire, there is smoke, we cannot even infer. So what Swamiji says is, even for inferential knowledge, that is also based on experience. Then he says, in what are called the exact sciences. Exact sciences we all know, physics, chemistry, biology, etc. So in exact sciences, people easily find the truth because it appeals to the particular experiences of every human being. This is a very important statement. So what is science? According to the dictionary, science is the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. So science is an activity, it is an intellectual and practical activity also. And what does it encompass? It is a systematic study of what? Of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world. This study is done how? Through observation and experiment. This is the definition of science. That is a systematic study, not haphazard. There is a system to it. And this study is done through observation and experiment. And Swami Vivekananda says, in the exact sciences as they are called, people easily find the truth because it appeals to the particular experiences of every human being. So if a scientist tells us that this apple falls to the ground, if I leave something, it falls to the ground. If I leave A, it falls to the ground. If I leave B, it falls to the ground. If I leave C, it falls to the ground. So then we go from the general to the particular. And reason that since this is happening to A, B, C, it must happen to D also. And here it is very easy for us to come to a conclusion because this is the universal experience of humanity. Every man woman and child. From birth he sees that if we leave something, it just falls to the ground. It does not go up unless some force is making it go up. If left to itself, if something is left to itself and we just leave it, it falls to the ground. From there we conclude something called gravitation. So this is very easy in exact sciences. Swamiji says in every exact science there is a basis which is common to all humanity, so that at once we can see the truth or the fallacy of the conclusions drawn therefrom. So this basis is common to everybody. It's the experience of everybody. If someone says to us that if I leave something, it goes up towards the sky, it does not fall to the ground, we will not believe him, because that goes against the experience of all humanity. This is the method of scientific conclusion. So when we see that something goes against the experience of all, we can immediately say that that thing or experience cannot be true. Now Swamiji says, now the question is, this universal basis upon which all scientific conclusions are based, has religion any such basis or not? This is the question. And upon the answer to this question lies the answer to the question whether religion also is a science or not. If there is no universal basis, if we don't have something to refer to, if there is not something which is common to all the religions, which is common to the experiences of all religious persons, if there is no such universal basis, then religion cannot be a science. It cannot be, because where is something to refer to? Where is that basis to which we can refer to? So this is the question which Swami Vivekananda raises right at the beginning, that the universal experiences which we see when we go to have any scientific experiment, that universal basis is, does it exist in religion or not? This is the thing. So Swami Vivekananda answers it by saying, first, I shall have to answer the question both in the affirmative and in the negative. This is the answer he gives. That the answer is yes as well as no. So we might think, what type of answer is this? But of course, Swami Vivekananda will explain that actually it is not, the answer actually is not negative, but when one sees from a particular aspect, then one feels that this religion does not have a universal basis. What is that viewpoint? So let us take the negative answer first. He explains, religion as is generally taught all over the world. So this we have to remember. When we say that religion has no universal basis, then this Swamiji's words, these words, that as it is generally taught, this we have to remember. This is the most important thing. So he says religion as it is generally taught all over the world is said to be based upon faith and belief. You believe something, you are religious. You don't believe something, you are not religious. That is generally what we see around the world. And in most cases, it consists only of different sets of theories. And that is the reason why we find all religions quarreling with one another. Because these theories are simply based upon beliefs. That is the problem. Christian, if I want to be a Christian, the first question I will be asked is, do you believe in Jesus Christ? So, if I ask the person who is asking me, if I ask him, have you seen Jesus Christ yourself? You know what the answer will be. He hasn't seen Jesus Christ. But he says, no, I have not seen him, but I believe in him. So this belief is what? It is not based upon experience. It is just based upon faith. There's nothing wrong in it. But when we try to find a scientific basis on these grounds, we won't find any. That is the problem. Because these sets of theory are based upon belief only. One man says there is a great being sitting above the clouds and governing the whole universe, and he asks me to believe that solely on the authority of his assertion. He says, believe it. I say, why? Believe it because I am saying so. That is the answer. I may have my own ideas and which I am asking others to believe, and if they ask a reason, I cannot give them any. That is why religion and metaphysical philosophy have a bad name. Swamiji says, every educated man seems to say, these religions are only bundles of theories without any standard to judge them. Each man preaching his own pet ideas. So this is what a general, rational, logical man, if he approaches religion, this is what he finds. Why? Because this is the way religion is generally taught. And if we examine it from this standpoint, it cannot be called scientific. That is why Swami Vivekananda says, in the answer, that I will answer in the affirmative as well as negative. Why negative? Because as it is generally taught, religion has no scientific basis. Because people will tell us to believe something. There is no scope for questioning. Do you believe? No, don't question. If you say yes, you are religious. Come into our fold. If you say no, you are out. So when someone takes this stand, and unfortunately most of the people take this stand, then Swamiji's answer in the negative stands true. And this is what is the cause of quarrel all over the world. Do you believe in what I believe? You don't? Let us fight. This is the wonderful solution to the problems which we give. So when this is the our aspect, this is our attitude, then of course the answer is negative, that religion has no scientific basis. But this attitude is not correct. That is what Swami Vivekananda wants us to understand, that actually religion is a science, and it is a science because it has a universal basis. So the truth, what is the truth? The truth is that there is a basis of universal belief in religion, governing all the different theories and all the varying ideas of different sects in different countries. This is the answer to the question. There are so many religions, so many sects in so many countries, and when we examine all of them, we will find that there is a set of universal beliefs. There are some principles which are the kernel of each religion, And this universal basis governs all the different theories and varying ideas of different sects in different countries. This is the correct answer. And because such is the case, religion is a science. So now we will go into detail. He describes how this is a science. So now Swamiji says, after saying this, he says, in the first place, if you analyze all the various religions of the world, you will find that these are divided into two classes. Those with a book and those without a book. Very few religions are there without a book. Most of the religions we know, they have a book. Like Christianity has the Bible, Islam has Quran, the Vedanta has, Hindus have the Vedas. But some are there which don't have a book. So Swamiji says that those with a book are the strongest and have the largest number of followers. Those without books have mostly died out, and the few new ones have very small following. But he says, in all of them we find one consensus of opinion, that the truths they teach are the results of the experiences of particular persons. This is the most important thing. I will repeat again. Whether the religion be without a book or with a book, all of them are one in the belief that the truths they teach are the results of the experiences. Mind you, experiences, not beliefs. Experiences of particular persons. And the very first line, what did Swamiji says? All knowledge is the result of experience. And here he says that even those without a book, the religions without a book or with a book, all of them uniform in telling us that whatever their beliefs are, they are based upon experiences. Because why? No knowledge is possible without experience. This is the most important thing. That is the very center, the kernel of each religion, which people often forget. That is the tragedy. So the Christian asks you to believe in his religion, to believe in Christ, and to believe in him as the incarnation of God, to believe in a God, in a soul, and in a better state of the soul. If I ask him for reason, he says he believes in them. But that is not the sufficient reason. You may believe, but I don't. Then what reason will you give? Reason is, now Swamiji says the reason, he says, but if you go to the fountainhead of Christianity, you will find that it is based upon experience. Not only Christianity, all the religions. But problem is we just look at the surface. We don't bother to go inside. So then Swamiji says that how is it based upon experience? Because Christ said he saw God. He did not say, just believe in God, you also believe. No. He said, I have seen God. The disciples of Christ said they felt God, means experienced God, and so forth. Similarly, in Buddhism, it is Buddha's experience which he laid out before others. He experienced certain truths, came in contact with those truths, and then preached them to the world. So with the Hindus, it is the same. In their books, in the books of the Hindus, that is the Vedas, those who put down the Vedas into writing, they were called rishis or sages. What did they say? Did they say that I've written these, just believe in them? No. They said, I have written these only based upon my own experiences. They declare that they experienced certain truths and they teach only those truths. This is the fundamental thing which we often forget. Thus it is clear, Swamiji says, thus it is clear that all the religions of the world have been built upon that one universal and adamantine foundation of all our knowledge. What is that foundation? Direct experience. This experience is, Swami Vivekananda says, the universal and adamantine foundation of all our knowledge without any exception. So the teachers of religion, they say they saw God. They say they saw their own souls. They saw their future. They saw their eternity. And what they experienced, what they saw, they preached. So what does the scientist say? Scientist does not say, a modern day scientist, will he come to us and say, you believe something just because I tell you? He will say no. Don't believe just because I tell you. Believe because I have experienced these things, and under the proper conditions, you can also experience them. If you do what I say, follow all the rules, then you will have the same experience which I have had. That is the scientific basis. And because religion is a science, religion is no different. This religion also says, the religious teacher also say the same thing. That is the thing. And Swamiji says that if someone says in religion, someone says that I have had those experiences, or my forefathers had, or some saint 1,000 years ago had, but you can't have them, then don't believe. Don't believe him. Because if these principles are universal, each living being, I won't say living being because only humans can have that experience. So each human being, a mature human being, if he follows the same rules, has to have those experiences. There cannot be any exception. So if somebody says that some experiences are impossible at the present day and they were only possible with a few men who were the first founders of the religions, and those are not possible now, those experiences have become obsolete and we have to just take religion on belief, that Swami Vivekananda says, I entirely deny. If there has been one experience in this world, in any particular branch of knowledge, it absolutely follows that the experience has been possible millions of times before and will be repeated eternally. Because uniformity is the rigorous law of nature. What once happened can happen always. This is what he says. Uniformity is the rigorous law of nature. And science is based upon the experiences which are the result of this kind of uniformity. This is the thing. So if I leave something just like that, Even thousands of years ago, it had fallen to the ground. Now also it will fall to the ground. I mean, even after thousands of years after, it will fall to the ground. Because that is the law of nature. It cannot be otherwise. So the conclusion, the great conclusion which Swami Vivekananda makes out of this is, he says, the teachers of the science of yoga therefore declare that religion is not only based upon the experience of ancient times, but that no man can be religious until he has the same perceptions himself. And yoga is the science which teaches us how to get these perceptions. This is the conclusion. That not only religion is based upon the experiences of ancient times, but it is possible to have these experiences now as well as in the future. And no man can be truly religious until he has himself had those perceptions. Because, why? Because till he has those perceptions, his religion will only be based upon belief. And only belief has no value. It may have some value in the beginning, but ultimately that belief has to be supplemented by his own experience. Otherwise, we cannot be said to be truly religious. Like, suppose a scientist comes and tells us that he has done this and this in the laboratory, and if we also do the same things, we will achieve the same results. Okay. Now he tells us to try those things for ourselves. So we put our belief in his words. In the beginning, you have to have belief. If we doubt everything, then we can reach nowhere. So we believe that he is a trustworthy person. We go to the laboratory. Then, like him, we mix those things or do whatever he has done. Then we achieve the same results. So then, if that person is a scientist, suppose, if we achieve the same thing by our own efforts and we realize, actually experience the results, till then we cannot be called scientists. Because till we don't do that ourselves, our knowledge will just be what is called bookish knowledge, and that has no value. You can study all the books on cookery, but if you go to the kitchen and you can't even light a stove, then it is of no use at all. It is all in the books. So, Swamiji says that is the same thing with religion also. These people have experienced certain truths, and they tell us to have a starting belief at least in their words and do whatever they have done. And then if we don't experience after doing whatever is necessary, then we can take them to task, not before. Not before. So if we don't follow the tenets of each religion, if we don't put it to practical, we don't go to the practical field, then we cannot say that we are religious. Just saying, just believing what someone says. You believe in this and that God? Yes, I also believe. You go to pray there, I also go and pray. Okay, come into my fold. You are the same religion, you are also religious, I am also religious. That type of belief has no meaning according to Swami Vivekananda. Because if someone with with a bigger intellect, with a sharper intellect. Mr. X comes and convinces me that black is white. Mr. Y comes, his power of persuasion is greater. He is a sharper intellect. He can argue better. He convinces me that black is red. Another person comes, he convinces me that black is green. So what is the basis of my beliefs? If there is no universal experience, then these beliefs in the long run, mind you, they cannot stand. They have no meaning at all. And when we make these beliefs the all in all, when we don't go and look any further, we think that these beliefs are sufficient to make us great saints and sages. Then the problem starts. You don't believe what I believe? Swords are drawn, so-called holy wars. That is the main problem, because we don't go deep, we don't care to go deep, because we are not ready to put the efforts. We just want an easy way out. True religion, if has to be followed, it demands great sacrifices. But we don't want to do that. We will sit in our air-conditioned room, have some nice pictures of gods and goddesses, offer flowers and pray for hundreds of things, and we think we have become religious. That is all, nothing more is to be done. But that is only the surface. If we stop there, Swami Vivekananda says we are far, far away from becoming truly religious. So I will again quote him. He says, it is not much use to talk about religion until one has felt it, until it touches our being. Then he says, why is there so much disturbance, so much fighting and quarreling in the name of God? There has been more bloodshed in the name of God than for any other cause. Why? He gives the answer. Because people never went to the fountainhead. They never went to the basis, the foundation. They were content only to give a mental assent to the customs of their forefathers and wanted others to do the same. So not only will I believe blindly, but I want others to believe blindly also. And if they don't believe, they become my enemies. This is our state. With our much wanted education, big degrees and all that, this is the state we are in, and see how much quarreling and bloodshed is there only because of this foolish belief. So, Swamiji says, what right has a man to say he has a soul if he does not feel it, or that there is a God if he does not see him? If there is a God, we must see him. If there is a soul, we must perceive it. That is the basis of religion. That experience has to be the basis of religion. And till we have at least belief in that those processes, if followed, will lead to that experience, and till we try at least ourselves, we cannot be called religious at all. That sincere effort to realize those truths is the first step in being religious. But unfortunately, even that is wanting in most of the people who call themselves religious. So now Swamiji concludes this. He says that, concludes means this, what he was discussing in the few sentences he mentioned. He says that the modern idea with the so-called learned people is that religion and metaphysics and all search after a supreme being are futile. On the other hand, with the semi-educated people, the idea seems to be that these things really have no basis. Their only value consists in the fact that they furnish strong motive powers for doing good to the world. If a man believes in a God, he becomes good and moral, he becomes a good citizen, and that is the end of religion. That is the only use of religion. So this is the idea which people hold. That religion is just a set of beliefs. Why? Why has it been preached? Just believe it, you will become better men. You will become better citizens. That is all. There is nothing further to that. So he says we cannot blame them for holding such ideas. Why? Because all the teachings which these men get is simply to believe in an eternal rigmarole of words without any substance behind them. They are simply asked to believe. Don't question. If you question, you become a faithless person, you will go to hell, you will be doomed forever. Just believe. So what will happen? If people are asked to believe like that, there will always be some rational people who will say, if you just ask me to believe, I will just say that it is just a bunch of superstition. It has no basis in truth. So they come to the conclusion that religion is all nonsense, you can say. It has no real basis in experience. It is just a set of beliefs without any foundation. But these mere beliefs cannot satisfy us. Swamiji says humans can't live upon words only. I may believe today, I may believe tomorrow, but one day I will ask for something more concrete. So he says man wants truth. All of us, in our heart of hearts, we want that truth. That desire can remain suppressed 1 year, 2 years, 1,000 years, 1 life, 2 lives, thousands of lives, but someday it has to be expressed. Each man, each human being wants the truth. He wants to experience truth for himself. And when he has grasped it, when he has realized it, when he has felt it within his heart of hearts, then alone, declare the Vedas, would all doubts vanish, all darkness be scattered, and all crookedness be made straight. He quotes the Upanishads, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi Chidyante Sarva Sanshaya. Sanshaya means doubts. Chidyante means they are destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. Why? When are they destroyed? They are not destroyed just because I say I believe in something. No, not at all. They are destroyed only when I actually experience those truths and not before. Then he again quotes the Upanishads. He says, Ye children of immortality, even those who live in the highest sphere, the way is found. There is a way out of all this darkness. And what is the way? It is by perceiving Him. By perceiving Him, by experiencing Him, one who is beyond all darkness. There is no other way. Nanya pantha vidyate ayanaya. Na anya pantha. There is no other way. You have to experience that. So, now what does this science of Raj Yoga help us? How does it help us in this regard? Swamiji answers, he says, the science of Raj Yoga proposes to put before humanity a practical and scientifically worked out method. These two, practical, it is not something impossible. It is not something which cannot be done at all. It can be done and it can be done by each one of us. That is the first thing. And scientifically worked out. Scientifically worked out because these are based on those universal experiences of religious persons who have taught them. So, Raj Yoga or any other yoga proposes to put before humanity a practical and scientifically worked out method of reaching this truth. Reaching means realizing that truth. So Raj Yoga or any other religion, any other yoga is a science like any other. But each science must have its own method of investigation. If we go to a laboratory of a chemist, we cannot get Raj Yoga. We can get only chemicals. If we go to a laboratory of a physicist, we won't find sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid there. Maybe we'll find some magnets or something like that, So each science has a different field and each science has a different method also. So Swami Vivekananda next explains this beautifully. He says, if you want to become an astronomer and sit down and cry astronomy, astronomy, it will never come to you. The same with chemistry. A certain method must be followed. You must go to a laboratory, take different substances, mix them up, compound them, experiment with them, and out of that will come a knowledge of chemistry. If you want to be an astronomer, you must go to an observatory, take a telescope, study the stars and planets, and then you will become an astronomer. So each science must have its own methods. Then Swamiji says, I could preach you thousands of sermons, but they would not make you religious until you practice the method. Thousands of teachings any person can give, and we can also hear thousands of lectures. But if we think that just by hearing them we have become spiritual, we have become religious, Swami Vivekananda says sorry. It is not that simple. We cannot become religious until we practice those things. So these are the truths of the sages of all countries, of all ages, of men pure and unselfish, who had no motive but to do good to the world. They all declare, all of them, Swamiji says, there is no exception. All these saints and sages, they declare the same thing. What? That they have found some truths. Found means they have experienced some truths which are higher than what the senses can bring to us. The senses, eyes, ears, nose, etc. They bring to us the messages from the external world only. But they say that don't think there is all. That is all, not at all. There is something much higher beyond. So they all declare there is something higher, and most important, they invite verification. They say, come, we are open. In Dakshineshwar, everybody who had gone, Sri Ramakrishna's door every time open. Come. Nothing to hide. No mystery mongering. No big theories or big words. He used to say, yes, these are the things. I have experienced them. Come. Do the same things. If you really want, you will also experience. When Swami Vivekananda had gone the world over asking everybody, sir, have you seen God? Nobody could say yes. Then when it went to Sri Ramakrishna not only said yes, but he said, but you can also experience. It is not that only I have experienced. So they invite verification. They ask us to take up the method and practice honestly. And then, if we do not find this higher truth, we will have the right to say there is no truth in the claim. But we don't do that. Who will take the trouble? So, before we have done that, we are not rational in denying the truth of their assertions. Christ said, take up the cross and follow me. Who wants to take up the cross? That is the problem. So here also, if we want to verify religion, if we have doubts whether it is a science or not, all the saints and sages have an open invitation for us. They say, we must faithfully work using the prescribed methods. There is a quotation of Swami Brahmananda. Brahmananda was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, as you all know. So he said, do this for this time. And if you don't realize anything, he said, come and slap my face. But Brahmananji also used to lament, if you read his books, nobody wants to do anything. That is the problem. So here also Swami Vivekananda answers, definitely we know that Raj Yoga or any other yoga or any other religion, it is a science like every other science. Why? Because like every other science, there is a systematic study, and the results, like science, are based upon experience. And these experiences can be had by one and all in every age. So when we have done those processes, we have worked on them, and we have followed all the rules, made those experiments, made those observations, if we don't realize still, then only we can say that religion has no basis, it is not a science at all, it is just a set of beliefs. But before that, we have no right to say. That is the thing. So, like any other science, religion is very much a science. And all the saints and sages have left us with so much material. Like we see all those books of physics and all, we used to get a heart attack in our student days when we used to see those books of physics and chemistry and all, mathematics and all. So it is not only in those sciences. In all the religions, there are so many scriptures. What do the scriptures tell us? The same things. They delineate those experiences. And they also tell us how we can get those experiences for ourselves. That is the sum and substance of each scripture in the world. Buddha told his own experiences, Christ told his own experiences, Ramakrishna told his own experiences, and they did not stop at that. They also tell us how we can have those experiences for ourselves. So this is the scientific basis of not only yoga. We are discussing yoga today, that's why yoga is coming up, and this is the introduction to his Raj Yoga. So in every kind of yoga, this is the basis of our saying that it is a science like any other. So a lot of things remain here. Now Swamiji will go and describe he will describe the process of acquiring knowledge. How do we acquire knowledge? He says that it is true that experience is the basis of every knowledge, but there are two kinds of knowledge, external knowledge and internal knowledge. Now, religion deals with internal knowledge. So, acquiring this internal knowledge has a different process. Here, the tools are different, the laboratory is different. So, all these will describe. It is a absolutely wonderful analysis which he makes. Today, there is no time. We will need at least one more discussion on that. So let us end here today. We will carry it on next week, God willing. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.